happy to tell you who they are and what the problem is, but you need to be fast because once the tweet's been made, it's going to be there forever. But if you resolve it quickly, that same person, they're going to tweet great things about you right away. Okay? So they will do this if they get great service. If they don't, then you only have that bad tweet sitting out there. So identification that a problem exists with a customer is the first step, and that's what you use these social monitoring solutions for. But the next step is resolution, and it's a little trickier because the social media guys, people who are responding to this, don't have access to the call center systems, right? They don't have information about who the customer is, and most importantly, what happened in the first place that caused the problem. Is this something that happens all the time, or was it a one-off? And if it's a one-off, then cool, you just need to fix it. But can you fix these things quickly? Are you treating the symptoms over and over and over as they come up, or are you treating the root cause of the problem? Are you ready and able to take this to the next level? Can you identify the specific interactions that the customer had with your business? You know what they went through, and can you use that information to turn them from this tweeting vocal detractor into a vocal advocator? And then can you use that same information to look at other similar customer experiences that people have had with your call center to see if you have this one-off problem, or if you have one that's truly worrisome, and which is the systematic problem that's happening many times over. So that first tweet that you find may be the early warning system for the next 50 tweets that are coming next week for the same thing. So you really need to evaluate that problem. What's the root cause? What did the customer want in the first place? So was it an agent problem? Was it a process issue that caused the dissatisfaction? If it's a process issue and you resolve the symptom for that customer, put it this way, you're going to need a bigger garage for all those cars you're going to get, because you're going to get a lot of the same complaints happening. And most of them, by the way, won't be tweeted, but you've lost the early warning system. And then you're just throwing away more money to take repeat calls, upset your customer base even more. So what you need to do is identify the type of call, the reason for the issue, and the steps that led up to the problem, and then check. Do I have other issues that are the same? Is this a one-off? Is it systematic? And you do this by evaluating these individual interactions that your tweeting customer had and see if it looks like anything else that's going on. Root cause analysis, and then resolve it. And then you're not only clearing up those tweets by getting back to the customer and explaining that you know what happened or what they went through or how you're going to resolve it, but then it eliminates those other tweets that the other irate customers may be making in the future. And by the way, that saves you money because you just eliminated a ton of repeat phone calls because you were paying attention to this social media early warning system. Now, I've got a few more things to talk about, but it is time for the commercial, because to take this to the next level and use social media proactively, you need to understand how your company handles interactions. And business interaction management, giving accountability, control of your customer interactions, regardless of the channel, is what we at UpstreamWorks do. That information, collected automatically in auditable detail, not only gives you a single version of the truth, but it gives you visibility into things like FCR tracking, call clustering patterns. It simplifies complex business intelligence initiatives. It augments your existing systems, and it gives you the details that you need to use social media as a tool for cost reduction in your contact center by identifying interactions that your customers don't want to make in the first place and the interactions that you don't want to have to pay for. And then letting you find similar patterns in the interaction data that points to those similar experiences and showing you the one-offs, the agent problems, and the process issues. And it's interaction tracking that really lets you, enables you to use those social media feeds as a true early warning system instead of just reacting to them. Okay, let's look at a couple of initiatives that I know some companies are undertaking in social media space with their call centers. One example was a U.S. mobile phone provider they had two guys with laptops. And they actually sat through a conference I was at with their laptops out, trolling through the social mentions and taking actions on them. Right? That was the social media department, and they got to go to the conference because they had their laptops and wireless. The second one was a telco, and they talked about their customers tweeting problems because it was faster than opening a web ticket. So they would tweet the problem because they wanted an instant response. I think the issue here, and I think this is pervasive through a lot of leaders in the social media and call center space, is we've got solutions that have been put in place, but I don't think they're scalable. They only work because the social media channel is still a very small channel. And God forbid it becomes mainstream, because almost everything I've heard of contact centers doing with social media today is going to break if the critical mass switches. So, you know, you either need to look to continually increase your social media budgets, or you need to get the money from somewhere else to support this initiative in the long term. And you know, nowhere have I seen a stronger call to action to improve the effectiveness of the contact center than what I've seen through social media, because you're going to need to do more with less. And eliminating customer contacts that have no value is going to be the fastest means to that end. Another semi-random point is you need to be clear as to the impact of social media on your business today, how it's affecting you. And this may be something you need to watch out for, but it may not be something you have to hit a home run with right away. And there's the YouTube video, United Breaks Guitars. You've probably heard of it. It had something like 10 million views on YouTube. And when it came out, it materially affected United Airlines. It actually dropped their stock price. And it had a clear moral with it. Don't upset a musician. Okay? This is a guy I know story. Right? The reality here, social media can do this. But, you know, the average Twitter user has 126 followers. So if you have 127, you're ahead of the pack. There may not be a lot of people out there listening, and you need to factor that into your equation and what your investment's going to be. Look at the clout scores, so that's clout with a K, of the people talking about you, and they may not have a lot of clout at all. And I put a random example here of one of the registrants for the webinar, NB Power. I totally pulled a random company out here. I did a quick check, and they're engaged with social media. They have 38,000 customers. They have 433 Twitter followers. That's 0.11% of their customer base. Okay, so you want to focus your efforts accordingly. The second random point, and I'm not sure who all the analysts are talking to, because everyone that I talk to in the analyst side of things say one thing, but when I talk to when I talk to analysts and I talk about millennials, the people who are in their 20s, they say these are the ones that are bored of the phone. These are the ones that are going to use social media to do all their communication, et cetera, and they do to talk to each other. And I sampled some of my contacts. I went on Facebook and talked to a bunch of millennials that I know. And in fact, when I asked my son, who's in his 20s, if he had a problem with something, if he would tweet or text about it, he was offended that I thought he was that stupid. He said, no, I'd phone them. If it was important, I want to get something done, I'd phone them. And interestingly enough, out of the 5 people that responded to my little Facebook poll, 5 for 5 millennials, they would phone. So the 20-somethings love to text, but they know if they want something fixed with a company, they're going to need to talk to someone. So I don't know. These are my own findings. You know, please ask the people you know what they would do and form your own opinion of this. So that's what I have. I'm going to potentially pass it back to Sabrina to see if there are any questions, but she dropped off early on, so I'm not sure if she actually got back onto the call or not. Sabrina, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, great. We have had a couple of questions that have come in during the webinar. So I'll just shoot them off to you, Rob, and you can answer them and and we'll go on from there.
Okay.
Once I have responded to an issue or question from social media, how can I incorporate that information into my customer service operations? I'm interested in both situations where I've successfully addressed an issue as well as issues that may have been escalated and what we've learned from that.
Well, the same way that if you're looking at how customers interact with you, and if you go back to my definition of an interaction, which is when you are engaging specifically with a customer, if you think about what I just talked about, once someone has thrown that tweet out there, which is kind of just yelling, once you've engaged with them to start a dialogue to understand what their account number is and what their issues are, you now have an interaction with them, okay? So you want to track that interaction that you've now initiated the same way you're going to track an interaction that's coming in on the phone or that's coming in through email. And then you want to be able to use the same set of tools that you're dealing with problem resolution in your contact center for phone calls or emails or SMS or for interactions that you've set up that you've initiated over Twitter. So you want to use the same set of tools by capturing that interaction.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next question. How can we know who is out there in the social media world, i.e. Twitterers and bloggers, to take direct individual action that we know merits our attention? How do you determine that number SpongeBob is in fact one of your customers and not a competitor or a random spammer consumer terrorist?
And the only way is you ask them. I know that I think master plan of trying to sort of amalgamate everyone's internet IDs and to have kind of a master database so we can identify people. And I've also heard rumblings on the internet about rules being put in place that you won't actually be allowed to do that. But the same thing is when someone phones your business, your call center with a blocked number, how do you find out who that customer is? You ask them for their account number. The same goes for any kind of comment that someone makes on YouTube. You need to initiate a conversation with them and ask them what their account number is. And if they're your competition, you're not going to have an account number, obviously. People who are complaining about things, when you reach out to them to try and help them, they want to get the problem fixed. They will tell you who they are, and they'll tell you what the problem is. Okay?
Okay. Next question. Would you recommend integrating this contact center with the existing call centers so the call center agents can do both things?
I'm not going to make a recommendation one way or the other. This is a written response mechanism. I would suggest if you're doing this, if you have chat